Evening sunlight spilled over the quiet suburban lane. Maple Street, where every house looked identical, but the hearts inside them were anything but the same. On one corner lived Amara, a 16-year-old black girl with curious eyes and soft curls that bounced when she laughed. Her world was simple: school, her sketchbook, and helping her mom at the small community bakery. But to the people across the street, her world wasn't simple. It was different. The Fosters, a middle-aged white couple with one son named Eli, had lived there for years. They never smiled at Amara or her mom, Clara. Every morning, when Clara would wave politely while leaving for work, Mrs. Foster would only turn her head away, pretending to water plants. Amara never said anything. She'd seen enough of the world to know that. Silence was sometimes safer than confrontation. But even silence has a way of breaking when it's pushed too hard. One afternoon, Amara was walking home from school, carrying art supplies she bought from her savings. Eli and his two friends were standing by the fence. "Hey," Eli smirked. "You paint those weird pictures because you got nothing better to do?" Amara ignored him, walking past. "What's the matter? Can't you say thanks for the compliment?" Another boy laughed. Then came the sting, a voice soaked in arrogance. "You don't belong on this street, you know that?" Eli said, tossing a crumpled soda can near her feet. Amara paused. Her chest tightened. She could hear her heart thumping against her ribs. For a moment, she wanted to shout, but instead, she bent down, picked up the can, and quietly placed it in the trash. Her silence made them even more irritated. "See?" Eli muttered to his friends. "They think they're better than us." That night, Clara noticed her daughter unusually quiet. "Amara, what's wrong, baby?" she asked softly while stirring soup. Amara smiled faintly. "Nothing, Mama. Some people just don't understand." Clara sighed. "Let them talk. You keep being who you are. Hate makes noise, but kindness lasts longer." Outside, the rain began to fall. It pattered against the glass, drowning the echoes of words that still hurt. Amara pulled out her sketchbook and began to draw. A small house surrounded by water, and two figures reaching out to each other. She didn't know why she drew it, only that it felt necessary. The next day, the tension grew thicker. Eli's mother, Margaret Foster, made it worse. While Amara and her mom were unloading bakery boxes in their driveway, Margaret walked past, muttering, "People like them bring the property value down." Clara froze, breath catching in her throat, but she said nothing. She just looked at her daughter, whispered, "Rise higher, Amara," and kept unloading the boxes. But deep down, Amara wondered, how high can kindness rise before it breaks? Days passed. The neighborhood buzzed with its usual rhythm, children biking, sprinklers whirring, dogs barking. Yet under that calm surface, resentment brewed like thunder behind clouds. And then came that day, the one that would silence every hateful whisper on Maple Street. A storm had rolled in overnight. The sky was bruised purple and gray. Wind howled through the trees, scattering leaves like restless souls. Amara was walking back from the bakery, umbrella bending under the pressure. As she reached the bridge near the creek, she saw something, a small figure running along the edge. It was Eli, and in seconds, he was gone, swallowed by the river that had swelled past its banks. Amara's breath froze. The world around her blurred. All she could hear was water roaring. She dropped her umbrella, and without thinking, she ran. The rain was pouring harder now. The air smelled like wet soil and panic. Amara dropped her umbrella on the bridge and ran toward the sound. Her shoes splashing in puddles, her heart hammering like a drum inside her chest. She could see the river swirling violently, brown and angry, thrashing against the rocks. For a moment, she lost sight of him. Then, suddenly, a small hand surfaced, clawing at the water before disappearing again. It was Eli. "Help!" she screamed, but the streets were empty. No one answered. The rain drowned her voice. Her brain told her to stop. It's dangerous. Wait for someone. But her heart said something else entirely. Without another thought, Amara dropped her bag, kicked off her shoes, and leapt into the water. The cold hit her like a wall of knives. She gasped, fighting the current that pulled her downstream. Her hair clung to her face, her arms flailing to stay afloat. "Eli!" she cried, swallowing water as waves crashed against her. She could barely see him now. Just a pale flash of a shirt. A terrified boy being tossed around by nature's fury. Every muscle screamed in pain, but Amara kept swimming. She wasn't thinking about the insults. the laughter, or the names he'd called her. She was thinking about one thing: saving a life. She finally reached him. His face was pale, eyes wide with fear, water choking his every breath. "Grab my hand!" she shouted. Eli flailed, but managed to clutch her wrist. The current pushed them down again. She coughed violently, lungs burning. They slammed into a branch caught in the flow. Amara used all her strength to grab it and pull both of them toward the shallow side. Her hands bled from scraping against rocks, but she didn't let go. She didn't let go. Finally, with one last desperate pull, she pushed Eli toward the muddy riverbank. He rolled onto the grass, coughing, crying, alive. Amara dragged herself out next, collapsing beside him, gasping for air. For a few moments, there was only the sound of rain and two hearts beating in disbelief. Then footsteps, voices. Margaret Foster's scream split the air like thunder. "Eli, oh my God, Eli!" She rushed down the hill, slipping in the mud. Her husband behind her, shouting for help. When she reached her son, she froze, seeing Amara lying beside him. Soaked, trembling, her lips blue. For the first time, Margaret didn't see the girl from across the street. She saw a human being, the one who'd just saved her child. The paramedics arrived minutes later, pulling the kids into blankets, checking pulses. Eli was safe. Amara was shivering uncontrollably but conscious. When the medic asked who rescued the boy, Eli weakly lifted his finger and pointed toward her. She saved me," he whispered. Margaret's face crumpled. Tears mixed with rain as she knelt beside Amara, words failing her. I didn't know. I'm so sorry," she stammered. Amara's lips trembled. "It's okay," she whispered faintly. "You don't have to be sorry. Just be better." The ambulance sirens echoed down Maple Street as the small crowd gathered. Neighbors staring, some in guilt, some in awe. That night, the storm passed, but it left something behind. Silence. A silence heavier than thunder, filled with reflection and shame. At the hospital, Amara sat on the bed wrapped in a blanket, sipping warm tea her mother brought. Clara brushed her daughter's damp curls away from her forehead. "You could have died, baby," she said softly, voice breaking. "I couldn't let him drown, Mama," Amara said quietly. "Even if he hates me." "I don't hate him." Clara exhaled slowly, pride and worry mixing in her eyes. "You've got a heart too big for this world, Amara." Meanwhile, at the Foster's home, Margaret sat beside Eli's bed. Her hands shook as she watched him sleep. The words Amara said echoed in her head. "You don't have to be sorry. Just be better." She looked around her own house. Pictures on the wall, family dinners, safe, warm comfort, and thought of how much hate she'd carried for people who never did her harm. For the first time, she felt small. She walked to the window. Across the street, the lights were on in Amara's house. For years, she had looked at that house with disgust. Now, she looked at it with gratitude. The rain had stopped, but Margaret's tears hadn't. Morning light crept through the curtains of Maple Street, soft and warm, like a quiet apology from the sky. The storm was gone, but its memory lingered. Muddy sidewalks, broken branches, and one story everyone was talking about. Every neighbor knew by now. Amara Johnson, the quiet black girl from across the street, had saved Eli Foster, the boy whose family never even looked her way. People whispered about it at the bakery, at the bus stop, even in church. She jumped in that river without thinking twice. That girl's brave, braver than any of us. Amara hadn't left home since the incident. Her body was sore, but her mind was heavier. She didn't want attention. She didn't save Eli to prove a point. She saved him because it was the right thing to do. But deep down, she wondered if anything had truly changed. Would the world suddenly stop judging her by her skin? Would kindness finally be seen? Or would it fade once the headlines did? Her mother, Clara, entered the room holding a small breakfast tray. "You're all over the neighborhood Facebook group," she said, trying to smile. Amara groaned softly. "I don't want to be famous for almost drowning." Clara chuckled. "You're not famous, baby. You're seen." Amara looked up, confused. Clara nodded toward the window. "Someone's here to see you." Outside stood Margaret Foster, her husband Tom and Eli, clutching a small bunch of flowers. Amara froze. Her heart started racing. Clara touched her shoulder gently. "You don't have to open the door if you're not ready." But Amara took a deep breath and walked out. The air was crisp, filled with the smell of wet grass. The moment Margaret saw her, she broke down, tears streaming, hands shaking. Amara, she whispered, voice cracking. I came to say thank you for saving my son's life and for showing me what real strength looks like. Amara stayed silent for a moment, then said softly, You don't need to thank me, Mrs. Foster. No, Margaret said, stepping closer. I do. Her eyes were red, sincere. I taught my boy to be proud, but not kind. And now he's alive because you were both. I was wrong. All these years. Eli's lower lip trembled. He looked up at Amara. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For everything. I didn't mean... She smiled faintly. It's okay, Eli, just learn from it. That's what matters. For the first time, Eli smiled back, not awkwardly, not mockingly, but with genuine gratitude. Margaret held out the flowers. These are from our garden. I thought you might like them. Amara accepted them, her fingers brushing Margaret's hand for a moment. The kind of contact that once would have been impossible, and somehow it felt healing. Tom Foster spoke next, voice low and sincere. If there's anything our family can ever do for you and your mom, we're here, sunlight breaking through after years of fog. Clara, who had been watching quietly from the porch, smiled softly. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Maybe start by being better neighbors. They all laughed, awkwardly at first, then genuinely. That small sound, laughter down, was like sunlight breaking through after years of fog. Days turned into change. Over the next few weeks, something shifted on Maple Street. Neighbors who never spoke to the Johnsons started waving. People stopped pretending not to see. And one Sunday morning, the local news featured Amara's story. Teen girl risks her life to save neighbor, inspires community to reunite. At the community park, the mayor handed her a small plaque. For courage and compassion beyond measure, applause filled the park. But Amara's eyes weren't on the crowd. They were on the Fosters. Margaret stood there, clapping through tears, holding her son's hand tightly. When the ceremony ended, Margaret approached Amara again, whispering, You didn't just save my boy. You saved my heart. Amara smiled gently. Maybe we saved each other. The camera crews left. The banners came down. But something far more important stayed. Respect. Not the kind you demand, but the kind you earn by being human. A new beginning. That evening, Amara sat by the same river where everything had changed. The water was calm now, reflecting the orange and pink sky. She took out her sketchbook and began to draw, two hands reaching through ripples, sunlight connecting them. Her mother sat beside her quietly. You think they'll stay this way? Clara asked. Amara thought for a moment. Maybe not all of them, she said, smiling faintly. But if even one person changes, that's enough. Clara wrapped an arm around her shoulder. That's my girl. The wind rustled softly through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, laughter echoed. Children playing. No lines drawn, no colors separating. Amara looked out over the water, her reflection dancing beside the sunset. She whispered, almost to herself. Kindness doesn't see color. It just saves lives. The river sparkled one last time before dusk, carrying away the pain, the hate, and the noise, leaving behind only what truly mattered.